we have 22 days until we elect a president in this country, and a lot of people are upset that all we talk about and all anyone talks about Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump. It is apparently, though, the news of the day, and it continues to be, because everything they're doing is affecting all of the other politics and the posturing about that politics. And so I understand people's frustration with, oh my God, they're talking about Donald Trump again. It kind of matters what happens in 22 days. I'm not saying that in a condescending way. I'd love to talk about, well, I wouldn't love to talk about Syria, but I think there's space to talk about Syria and serious issues. But everything that happens in 22 days will matter with all of these issues. And today, we are now in America again talking about fixed elections, and it's ironic to hear the person who is claiming that these elections are rigged. You have minorities in this country who have been protesting. First, they didn't have the vote. Then when they got the vote, they thought that they didn't really have the vote. And then we have a Voting Rights Act, parts of which are due to expire, and there's protesting against letting those expire and for letting them expire, parts of the Voting Rights Act. And now you have the Republican candidate for the presidency who is down in just about every poll. There was a poll today in Utah, that shows Donald Trump in second place by one percentage point to, obviously, to Evan McMullen. Evan McMullen, exactly. And then Hillary Clinton 2 points behind Trump, or 2 points behind McMullen. It's a tight race in the state of Utah. The polls are showing Donald Trump is just floundering right now. And so what does he do? Blame other people like he always does. He blames CNN, the Clinton News Network. They're frauds. They're terrible. He blames, then again, the rigged election system. So I don't know. Maybe it's not obvious to you guys, folks, but I picked something up in watching Donald Trump. I want you to watch and see if I picked it up right. I think the guy thinks the election is rigged. Let's see what you think.
Hillary is running for president in what looks like a rigged election. Okay? It looks to me like a rigged election. The election is being rigged by corrupt media, pushing completely false allegations and outright lies. And remember this, it's a rigged election. But that's what I mean. It's a rigged election. So it's a rigged election, but we're not going to let it happen. Remember, it's a rigged system. It's a rigged election. We're going to beat the rigged system. We're going to beat the rigged election. The process is rigged. This whole election is being rigged. The whole thing is one big fix. It's one big fix. It's one big fix in what looks like to many people a totally rigged election. The election is being rigged by corrupt media. It's a rigged system. This is a rigged system, folks, but we're not going to let it happen. But we are going to stop it. We are not going to back down.
So yeah, I picked up a little bit. I was curious if you guys picked up the same. There was a little subtle. I came out of watching that earlier, and I thought, yeah, I think the guy thinks the election might be rigged.
It's the dominant strategy. I mean, either that or completely change your approach to the election, but it's just so easy. It just kind of it sums up this strange laziness of the Trump camp, of Donald Trump, which is, what is the easiest thing to say at any given moment, is what he'll say. And I think to him the easiest thing to say when you're losing is, it's rigged.
But is there anything to back that up, Thor?
I don't believe so, and it kind of feels like he's trying to hypnotize us. It's just like, it's a rigged election, and we're just like, yes.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, but that's, we say, and we can laugh about it being hypnotizing and mesmerizing and all of that. This is the MO of the Trump campaign. Say something enough, and your puppets are going to repeat it, right?
Yeah, right. But it's, I mean, the key to running a campaign is typically to stay on message. But he hasn't been able to find a message that he can. The campaign has not been able to find a message for Donald Trump to stay on that Donald Trump feels like staying on. That's the thing. Is he'll come back to rigged. That seems to be the compromise that they've made.
But do you think he's seeking that? Do you think the campaign is seeking a message? Or do you think, because, listen, he has run, and I will say successfully now, because he went through the primary system. He became the nominee. He's continued running. Never at one time, never in one debate, never in one CNN, Fox, or Face the Nation interview, never has he sort of elucidated his audience as to what he wants to do.
That's a laziness factor, I think. You never have to.
But is that laziness? Why is it lazy? If you don't have to do it, is it lazy to do it, to not do it?
I don't know. I don't know what the second tier of strategy is, the action item that he wants everyone to do. I mean, we'll talk about it later. The only action item I see is for people to go, that have been told to go stand out in front of polls,
right,
and intimidate voters. But I don't know. I just don't think that Donald Trump is sophisticated enough a political mind to do anything but just kind of shit disturb.
Yeah.
And a great way to shit disturb is to, question the fundamental underpinnings of an electoral process.
Yeah.
And I believe it wasn't it the Washington Post that looked at 10 years of elections, and there were 30 cases of voter fraud for 1 billion votes cast.
Right.
It doesn't seem like
it's more likely, they say, that there would be a shark attack than there would be voter fraud. And in Pennsylvania, where they are targeting right now, we're going to hear a little bit more about that. They are actually saying that in Pennsylvania there were 6 votes that were changed because precinct captains, who by the way work for the parties, the people came in and they kind of saw that it was uneven and there was a mistake, so they evened it out at 6 votes. I mean, this is 6 votes that happened years ago. So now Trump is saying, well, it's going to be a mess in Pennsylvania. I want to put up some graphics on the screen. Graphics number 10 A and B, because this speaks to the idea that the Republicans are going to go in, they're going to have election monitors there, and I want you to hear what Bob Brady, who's a Democratic congressman from Philadelphia, had said. We've been around a long time. These guys who want to come in are rookies. We're going to do everything right. These guys better not do anything to hinder the election because it has backfired completely on them. He goes on to say, we put it out on the street that they're challenging black votes, and people will come out in droves. I hope they try to challenge everybody because we'll have lines and lines and lines. So Bob Brady in the Washington Post, in a piece by Dave Weigel, said, hey, listen, if they do this, we are going to counterattack, and that's going to bring more people out, because as soon as a certain segment of this population knows that there is voter fraud, they're going to laugh and come out and wait in line and vote all night. So it will work against them, according to the Congress. Do you see some truth in that? I mean, do either of you see how this can be likened to the voting rights struggle that minorities have, and especially and most notably in certain elections in Philadelphia?
What it has is, echoes of racial strife, of, racial arguments and confrontations. And that's something that, a lot of the Voting Rights Act and other measures have been put in place to kind of put aside. It seems like we're going back to it.
Right. I agree with that. But it's using that as a tactic, too. I mean, I haven't heard that before. So Congressman Brady is saying, so come check us out. If you come check us out, we're going to just bring more voters for you to have to check out. Do you see that as a good sort of way of getting these people off their backs?
I have no idea. I've just never seen anything like this in an election. Yeah. I don't know what the reaction is going to be. It's just kind of absurd.
It seems like this is a counter-argument to the fact that people aren't going to come out to vote.
Right.
More people are disenchanted in the electoral process. It seems like I'd rather have a groundswell of support around a candidate. We're not going to get that right now. I am sad to see that the groundswell that this congressman is citing is the necessary groundswell that is a reaction to voter suppression and intimidation.
As we get to the debate in Las Vegas, Donald Trump knows that it's happening in a couple of days, and he thinks that there should be drug testing. He has called for drug testing before the debate. Now, not to mention, this is a violation of the Fourth Amendment, where it says specifically that there is no drug testing of candidates for office.
So in the future,
I think it should always be against the Fourth Amendment, not just for presidential candidates.
Well, no, it's not just president. It's all. Well, that's true. I mean, there are a lot of people that think that should be the case, and it probably. I would guess it would ebb that way eventually, and certainly certain drugs will be looked at a little differently. But no, it's the candidates for any office. They say higher office is what it is, but any office. In any case, he thinks that there should be drug testing. Funny thing from Josh Earnest at the White House. Let's listen to old friend Donald Trump here talking about just this.
I think she's actually getting pumped up. You want to know the truth? She's getting pumped up. You understand? In fact, we're going to be talking about that in a few minutes. She's getting pumped up for Wednesday night. Let's see. You know, I don't know. Maybe we're like athletes, right? Hey, so athletes, they're making them more and more, but athletes, they make them take a drug test, right? I think we should take a drug test prior to the debate. I do. I think we should. Why do we do that? We should take a drug test prior, because I don't know what's going on with her. But at the beginning of her last debate, she was all pumped up at the beginning. And at the end, it was like, oh, take me down. She could barely reach her car.
Right. She could barely reach her car at the end of the last debate. I think he's probably referring to a time before that when she had walking pneumonia and needed assistance because she felt lightheaded.
Ironically named walking pneumonia.
Ironically named walking
Stumbly bumbly pneumonia.
Right.
Seems like.
Hey.
Does he think Arnold Schwarzenegger is advising her? It's like, I'm going to pump you up.
Right. Pumped up.
Who is he talking about?
Right.
Who is he talking about? Because it seems like I watched that first debate anyway. Well, I watched the second one too, but the first one, everyone comes away saying like Donald Trump is the one who could hold steady, could stay focused at the beginning, and it wasn't until the end of the debate that he couldn't keep focus, and he seemed to lose track of reality.
Well, that's true. But let's just stick with the drugs for a second here. The Republicans are the ones that, for the past, let's say, 7, 8, 9 years, have championed the idea of drug testing for welfare recipients, right? Yeah. And so now you have a Republican candidate who is saying, who's bringing in the athletes. They haven't asked for drug testing for athletes. They haven't asked for drug testing of CEOs. They haven't asked for drug testing of other candidates that they're running against. But when Hillary Clinton is running against Donald Trump, he wants this drug testing. Is there some bizarre double standard here, or are we giving it too much?
I think you're giving it too much credit for this reason.
Yeah.
I think that Trump is looking to give people stuff to say, and he even says it. He says that's what they're going to be talking about, and it's as though with the sexual assault allegations and the grab them by the vagina, he's like, well, they have sex. They're talking about sex. We need to go one level up. How about drugs? And if that fails, rock and roll.
Hillary Clinton is listening to rock and roll before the debate.
Who is this? Who are people that she listens to? Already, one of his surrogates went after her for listening to Beyonce.
Yeah.
So they're really just going with anything that comes to mind.
Yeah, it's a little crazy. Josh Earnest, the White House press secretary today, was asked about it, and he, in a great off-the-cuff response, said, "Wasn't it Donald Trump that was sniffling through the entire debate?"
Yes.
I thought it was great. I mean, if anybody was under drug question, and Howard Dean actually said, was he on cocaine or something?
I've been saying on Twitter, and people have been agreeing with me, that I feel like Donald Trump just projects. Like, if there's a problem with him, it's their problem.
Right.
Kind of like the Karl Rove idea of, just put it on someone else.
It's successful, right? It works.
Yeah. That's what turned me, because it used to be, I just thought he wasn't really a racist until I saw his comments about the Mexican judge,
and then
who
he calls her racist,
could ever divorce, the one's heritage from their ability to judge laws as being right or unconstitutional. And it just, that was the moment I said, he absolutely believes this, because he's just saying, you're the one who's doing it. And that's why I wrote underneath the calling for drug testing headline was, you're the one sniffling, boner face.
Really? Is that what he said? He said boner face?
No,
Josh Earnest said boner face?
I'm calling him a boner face. I'm sorry, but it's just so crazy.
So that's not a direct quote.
That's not a direct quote. That's what I wrote down. I was like, why are you asking her to drug test? You're the one.
And you wouldn't do the drug test if they actually were like, fine, let's do it. he would back out of it immediately.
I don't know that he would, because he
prides drugs in your system.
He prides himself by not drinking or doing drugs at all. And that's his thing now. Whether he did them in the 70s or 80s, I don't know. He says he's never been a drinker.
Maybe he's still high from all the cocaine he did.
It could have been that. Yeah. How long does it last? Is it,
for me, it sounds like it
years?
lasts 5 minutes.
Trump takes us from the silly to the serious very quickly, because the people that do listen to Donald Trump are taking what he has to say very seriously. And every time he talks about Hillary Clinton should be in jail, that she's crooked, that she's dangerous, all of these things, there are people in those crowds listening who are actually listening and taking him very, very seriously, to the point where they are turning violent. Let's listen to this Trump supporter. I think it was in New Hampshire, I'm not exactly sure, and what he had to say to the Wall Street Journal.
How are you feeling right now about where things stand with the campaign?
I feel like Hillary needs to be taken out. If she gets into government, I'll do everything in my power to take her out of power, which if I have to be a patriot, I will.
What does that mean?
Take it any way you want to take it.
That sounds like a threat.
What do you think a patriot is?
Is that a physical threat?
I don't know, is it? I won't have to myself. Well, there's going to be probably a movement to where we will go and take them out of power.
It sounds like you're saying that it would be acceptable to assassinate a president.
If she's corrupt, why should she be able to stay in office? Answer that question.
So we get from, he's rigged election, and we get from everybody should have drug tests, and then you hear these people, and I've seen them, and you've probably seen them in other places, but when they're saying things like this, because Donald Trump has sort of pushed into their minds the idea that this is an un-American person, and he is equating patriotism, this Dan Bowman, equating patriotism with taking out the president.
Yes, there's nothing more patriotic than assassinating.
Right. And it might not be him, it might be a group of people that do it, is what he says. Where are we? How did we get here?
I mean, there's a place for a role model, and he's just not it. Whether he wants to admit it or not, he is the one who has been nominated to set the agenda moving forward for an entire one of the two main political parties.
Right, and when you said the man you're talking about is a man who Paul Ryan has not unendorsed, a man that Mitch McConnell has not unendorsed, a man that Marco Rubio has not unendorsed. So all of the Republicans within that operation, Reince Priebus is working for this guy's election. And then there's that.
And hearing this, and hearing what it turns into within individuals. Now, one person does not represent an entire group of folks, but one person could do what it is very obvious to me this person is threatening to do. Now, those people exist without stoking the flames of saying, only Second Amendment people can stop Clinton.
Right. It's just a continuation of the violent rhetoric that Trump started at his rallies, telling them to kick people out and hit them in the face and all this.
Right, and this illegitimate thing that you're referencing that started at his rallies, it actually started a long time ago. It was Republicans saying that Bill Clinton should not have been president. He wasn't entitled to the presidency. That Barack Obama, this came from Trump, or was perpetuated by Trump. Barack Obama was un-American, not entitled to the presidency. Then you see these guys. And, at that same rally, Dan Bowman, who we just heard from, Matt Visor of the Boston Globe, who you should follow, who is a really, really good writer and has covered this election really well. Matt Visor said, this is number 9, said that this is in his interview, Dan Bowman saying, if she's in office, I hope we can start a coup. She should be in prison or shot. That's how I feel about it. We're going to have a revolution and take them out of office if that's what it takes. There's going to be a lot of bloodshed. You can be sure that Dan Bowman, who's giving his name to everyone, is going to get a visit from the Secret Service. But it's, it's this whole idea that, fine, all right, you hear that, and you're going to hear this kind of rhetoric in elections. But Donald Trump isn't repudiating this, right? I mean, even at John McCain's rallies, when people said things about Barack Obama, right? I mean, he would say, no. He's an American. He loves his country. He's running for president, right? And John McCain couldn't stand Barack Obama. He didn't want him to win. He was running against him. Donald Trump has not repudiated any of these people ever. He's not repudiating the people that fought at his rallies during the primaries. He's not repudiating these guys who are calling for violence. It's astonishing to me. And even, he did this, and I don't know if we're covering this in the second hour or not, but I'll mention it, that the firebombing of the Republican headquarters in North Carolina, he right away blamed that on Hillary Clinton, right? He went and blamed that on Hillary Clinton and her people. Hillary Clinton sent a tweet out saying, "I'm praying for everyone. I'm so happy that everyone's safe. This is a horrible thing for the Republican Party." So the decency factor, completely out of politics with Donald Trump.
And this is speculation, but take what Matt Bauman said.
Yeah.
And Dan Bauman. Sorry, what Dan Bauman said, and if it's not Dan Bauman, if it's someone who's Muslim,
right?
Dan Bauman would say, "Get that? Why is that person who is able to say that not in jail right now?"
Right.
And maybe not from his mouth, but I've seen it tons of other places where people say, folks who are trying to come in who have committed no transgressions, and are refugees.
Yeah.
Still being able, if someone who was even remotely affiliated with that category said the same thing, would you be calling them a patriot? The word patriot, he says, what do you think a patriot is? Well, what does this guy think a patriot is? Because what he thinks a patriot is not a patriot.
The guy who puts a U.S. flag do-rag on his head and starts saying that he wants to kill Hillary Clinton. That's a patriot. He had that thing.
The foam.
The foam it's a Donald Trump mask, so that if you pulled it down, it was a Donald Trump.
Right, the same person who's like, why, when they're wearing those Islam hoodies.
Right.
I can't see your face. How come you're allowed to do that and I can't see your face? Oh, I'm sorry. So now for Donald Trump. And you just see this. How big are the eye holes for Donald Trump masks when Donald Trump's eyes are already so tiny and deep?
Small eyes. So.
Right. And that guy's a moron, too, because, you never saw a Klan guy interview. It's like, so I think, that just didn't happen. So,
it seems like he's trying to get fired from his job.
Well, I think it's worse than that. I think it's going to be worse than that for this guy, and I'm sure.
Yeah. Legal repercussions.
Well, legal repercussions and Secret Service watch lists and monitoring and all the things that come with making a threat on a former Secretary of State, a former First Lady at this point. Even if she's not going to be president, she still has Secret Service protection.
Be on the no fan vote list.
One of the worst things about this campaign are the last 2 weeks of sexual allegations and sexual assault allegations. And there is a silver lining to that. Is this a silver lining? I don't know. It's a lining. Yeah, I think it's a silver lining. You don't want it to be, but whatever. It's a silver lining. Is that sexual assault hotline calls are up in the wake of Donald Trump's allegations, with sexual assault accusations against Republican presidential Donald Trump continuing to make headlines. The sexual assault hotline run by the Rape Abuse Incest National Network, RAINN, has seen a spike in calls. Starting last Saturday, RAINN officials said their live chat helpline saw an increase in use of 33%, and in recent days, calls to the telephone hotline have also increased. So I think this is a really encouraging thing, because it will discourage abuse and encourage people not to be
Trump should run on this. This is the one success from the last 2 years.
So true, Thor. That's so right. It really, this is like even if he's never elected, he has accomplished this.
Yeah, and don't put it past him. He will claim credit. He will say, well, there's a good thing.
Yeah, many people are saying, I exposed this, no one was talking about it before.
But he will, if he does win, though, his administration will take over the hotline, and when women call, it'll be like, ma'am, you can't substantiate these claims. They're ludicrous and ridiculous. Right. This never happened, and just hang up.
But that's... these things are, Donald Trump had these allegations against him, and they're ugly stories, and they are probably one of the factors that will prevent him from being president, and one of the many factors. I think without this tape, he wouldn't have been president anyway. But the fact that this is happening, is that more his celebrity that whenever anything happens with a celebrity in America, it has an effect. It's why advertising and endorsements and things like that work. I mean, what's at play here, or is it just people are tuned into this election much more? I think it's a sort of sick part of celebrity.
It could be that these women coming out emboldened other women. They were like, well, if they're going to come out, then I'm going to come out too.
I mean, we have things to compare this to, two different ways. One way we can compare it to is the Bill Cosby situation, where like someone in the Cosby situation, it seemed like it was Hannibal Buress who was like became a famous comedian and got quoted, and that kind of snowballed, and people, once it was out in the public sphere, felt comfortable doing that.
Right.
And justice inside you tells you that someone who is able to be like Bill Cosby, like everyone's favorite dad, it doesn't seem just that everyone's favorite dad is doing this to people.
Right.
You know, by comparison, the person who's about to be potentially president of the United States should not be, and it's easy to wrap your head around it, whether it affects it or not, it should not be rewarded with the presidency.
Yeah.
The other thing we can compare it to is the Romney video. Because this is the second consecutive election where a hidden camera has pretty much been the thing we remember as submarining a campaign.
Yeah.
And the Romney video, in an election whose level of discourse was far higher than this one, the Romney video, we're talking about the difference between two socioeconomic classes.
Right.
And that is a very sophisticated discussion that you're having. Way more sophisticated than, and most things are more sophisticated than grab her by the pussy.
Yeah.
But I think Donald Trump is, in effect, reaping what he's sown, which is single-handedly, well, he's the full back.
You're gonna go with
No,
single-handedly.
not single-handedly. No. There's along with with the media apparatus and the Twitterverse, bringing down the level of discourse. And, if I'm a reporter, I want to have this discussion based on the kinds of vocabulary we were using in the last election. But, I don't know, for me, I have that developed sense of justice where it's like, you know what? If you're going to be shitty, I'm going to be shitty. And that's not a good thing, but I'm willing to just throw sexual accusations on top of you until it sinks you, and then afterwards we'll deal with the results.
And today there was another one, by the way.
And the thing I can't point out enough is the hypocrisy behind this, where Trump supporters will say every claim that's ever been made against Bill Clinton was true, and you should support those women, and then anyone makes a claim against Donald Trump, and it's like, don't listen to them, they're liars, this is political.
Right. Let's have a press conference with these women before the debate, and then after the debate tape comes out, and everybody says, well, no, we don't want to talk to these women. What they're saying is not credible. It's so true what you say. It's like there's this, that they take one group seriously and not another group. Another woman today, 63-year-old Kathy Heller, says she was at a Mother's Day event at Mar-a-Lago in Palm Beach. Donald Trump came over, shook her hand, pulled her into him, kissed her on the lips, and it happened in front of her family. People saw this. As a matter of fact, she said she yelled at her husband for not doing anything about it. She didn't say anything about it because it wasn't newsworthy until now, and of course the Trump campaign is denying it. Newt Gingrich has been on the trail for Donald Trump, and he apparently takes this whole voter fraud thing very seriously. Let's listen to. We have a couple of doozies for you here. First, Newt, then we'll even visit America's mayor, Rudy Giuliani.
This is not about election officials at the precinct level. This is about last Friday when the networks spent 23 minutes on the Trump tape and less than 1 minute. All three networks combined, less than 1 minute on Hillary Clinton's secret speeches that were being revealed on WikiLeaks.
But you say it's not at the precinct level, but Trump has also told people to monitor polling stations.
They should. You look at Philadelphia, you look at St. Louis, you look at Chicago. I mean, again, I'm old enough. I remember when Richard Nixon had the election stolen in 1960. So to suggest that you don't have theft in Philadelphia is to deny reality. I'm just saying to you there are clearly cases where you clearly have intimidation. There are cases where you clearly have theft. And so to suggest to us that people who are concerned about honest elections are somehow nutty, I think is a mistake.
You see the irony here with Newt Gingrich? He's talking about there's clearly intimidation, that people this is going to be rigged against the Republicans because there's clearly intimidation. He, of the party that spent decades and decades intimidating voters.
Yeah. Furthermore, I don't think Trump or maybe Gingrich understands that elections are run by state and local officials, and most state and local officials are Republicans. So if anyone's going to be trying to rig this election, it could be the Republicans.
Well, that's true. You'd think Gingrich would get that a little bit, but Trump certainly doesn't get it. But you're right. I mean, that's the other side of this argument, is the whole party side of it, where it seems as if the Republicans are crying foul over voter fraud in the most bizarre reversal of history that I can imagine.
Right. What I think has been done well is the coupling of the term voter fraud with the term lack of proof. Right. There are very few cases. What is it? 50 is what people throw around. You say 6.
Six votes in Philadelphia. That's one case, 6 votes in Philadelphia. And Gingrich is out there saying, clearly this is happening. And then he goes to the Republican strongholds of Philadelphia, Chicago, St. Louis. I mean, if they're not, if the Democrats win those cities, something's got to be really screwed up.
They are, right? Yeah, because of course they are going to win those cities.
Yeah, this whole idea of voter fraud, and sending monitors in, and I want to wrap it up because I want us to hear the remains of Rudy Giuliani. He spoke on this. This is America's mayor, and we'll talk about it for a little bit after.
There are a few places, and not many in the swing states. There are a few places where they've been notorious for stealing votes. Pennsylvania, Chicago. There have been places where a lot of cheating has gone on over the years. I know that from my own knowledge of busing people in from Camden. I'm sorry. Dead people generally vote for Democrats rather than Republicans.
So he's not talking about elections being stolen, except in some cases when he is talking about elections being stolen.
I would be. If you want me to tell me that I think the election in Philadelphia and Chicago is going to be fair, I would have to be a moron to say that. So I can't sit here and tell you that they don't cheat, and I know because they control the polling places in these areas. There are no Republicans. That it's very hard to get people there who will challenge votes.
It sounds as though you are saying that Trump is serious when he says that the election
No, I'm not saying that.
You just laid out a whole case about how Democrats steal elections.
I've found very few situations where Republicans cheat. They don't control the inner cities the way Democrats do. Maybe if Republicans control the inner cities, they do as much cheating as Democrats.
Well, you control.
That is what's so great. He was the mayor of New York City.
It's great to hear, Gingrich just have said it would be to deny reality. And it's like, so now we're just going to deny reality.
Right.
Giuliani brings up a good point, though. Trump's outreach for dead voters has been awful.
Yeah.
He hasn't been talking to them at all, really.
That's true.
That's why they're voting Democrat.
Right. And Rudy Giuliani, who looked there like maybe a dead voter, I think is offended by it. But it's a good point because, first of all, more people vote for dead, more Democrats do well among dead people. The line is referring to the fact that in machine politics, they used to get people who were deceased and find people to vote as those people, right? And that happened in New York and happened in Chicago, happened in the turn of the century and in the 20s, and then mob-controlled and daily-controlled Chicago in the 50s and 70s. But it didn't happen a lot. It happened because when it happened, it was a good story, and the newspaper people loved covering it, etc. That's not what's going on here. I mean, dead candidates is different. 5 Democrats who had already died have won in the history of.
That's amazing.
It's amazing. The last was Mel Carnahan in Missouri, whose wife then took over the seat. But he beat John Ashcroft, so that was pretty good. The late Mel Carnahan beat John Ashcroft. But this whole idea of intimidation. This is a different kind of intimidation. This is a different kind of keeping people away from the polls. It's saying it bluntly, but for different reasons, that it's corrupt, that it's rigged. So people might be afraid to go to the polls. Democratic voters may not want to go there. And listen to what this Ohio voter said to the Boston Globe. This is a gentleman called Steve Webb. This is number 5. He's saying about watching the precincts. He said, Trump said to watch your precincts. I'm going to go for sure. I'll look for, it's called racial profiling. Mexicans, Syrians, people who can't speak American. Right? And that's what, this is informed by? Is it not? I mean, don't you think that's what this conversation's about?
That's one where you're interviewing the guy and you're like, "Did you say you said that? You said that?
You really said that?" We have another one of those when we get to old friend Hillary Clinton.
I believe Trump or one of his surrogates said that people should go into districts where they're not a voter and watch them, which feels like saying, "Hey, white supporters, go into the black neighborhoods and make sure they're not going to get voted for."
Exactly.
Yeah, but then you'd have to find someone who says openly that that's racial profiling.
Yeah.
And where are you going to find them?
But then do you find people in those neighborhoods who are just afraid to go out and vote because they know this is happening? Isn't that what this is? This is voter suppression and intimidation by saying it's rigged?
It is absolutely voter. I mean, it's a step further than to say it's rigged. You can rig it. You say it's rigged and wink. This is saying go out there. And for someone I think that guy said he's going to do everything legally. But no, that is illegal. That is voter intimidation.
Right.
And what do you think it's going to look like when you get to the polls? In what way do you think you're going to watch your polling place? What skills do you have once you're there? Do you think when people are stealing the election, they're going to look like robbers leaving the bank with the dollar sign on it instead it just says election? Is that what you think you're going to see? No. You're going to get there. You're going to get angry. You're going to be like the guys we covered last week on the show who are standing there with guns for 12 hours leaned against their trucks
because it's legal.
And it's going to be all day.
I just like the image of someone coming back with the glasses and the fake nose and the mustache and coming to vote again.
Yeah, right. That's what they. I mean, we laugh at it, but that's what they're trying to make people think is happening everywhere, and it simply is not happening. And certainly, when it does happen, it's not happening in election-changing degrees. There's no proof of it. I'm not saying because I know. The people that have tried to prove that have always failed to prove it.
I'm concerned with what's going to happen once the people who are being told to go monitor polling places get out there and 5 hours in they realize this is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Are they going to leave? Hopefully. They won't even show up. But if they don't leave, hopefully they don't get frustrated and start fights.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. And who's there at the polling places to say, guys, you have to leave?
Right.
Do we have those kinds of people at the ready? What would those people even be that you dispatch? It seems like from our earlier discussion, it's going to be someone saying, well, you're bringing a bunch of people, I'm going to bring a bunch of people.
Well, it's the same people that the Tea Party and the Republicans called on, the Minutemen, to go to the border and make sure people aren't crossing the border illegally, right? Well, we have the Border Patrol there, but we're just going to send this citizens militia in there to make sure that they're doing their job. That's exactly what this is. And it's intimidation. And that was a violent intimidation. This is a threatening intimidation, which I guess is intimidation by its nature. And so you understand why these people who fought so hard for voting rights in the 60s, people like John Lewis, and you can name them all, are looking at this and saying, wait a second, this is, again, intimidation at the ballot box. And people can't stand for this. And that's what you're getting with Donald Trump right now. And that's what you're getting with his two most moronic, I would say, surrogates. Well, it's hard to say most moronic when you look at a lot of his surrogates. But Rudy Giuliani, Rudy Giuliani won in New York City. He became mayor in New York City. He beat, but before that, he lost to David Dinkins by 3%. He has been on this since losing by 75,000 votes in 1993 to David Dinkins. He has been on this since then. And I think that's going to stop.
And even still, what has he found while being on this?
Right.
What is the proof?
Nothing. He became mayor for 8 years.
If it's that, but then again, maybe being on this, just proves how good the voter fraud is.
It's how high grade voter fraud.
And the same people who within the general election, I can see people on the other side who are being like, Florida votes disappeared to this day.
Right. Yeah, I was just going to say I was one of those people. I still might be.
But you're allowed to be. I mean, there are instances of it happening. But to say that there's this massive, organized voter fraud, and there's a postman that's being, somebody who works at the post office said he's glad he works at the post office because he's tearing up Trump absentee ballots. How does he know they're Trump absentee ballots, right? Yeah. That he's tearing them up. And even if there is one rogue person doing that, a few votes are going to go away. It happens every year. The problem in Florida was that ballot.
I believe you can alter an election, rig it in some way at very localized levels. Like Florida was such a historically close election that perhaps there was some play there.
Yeah.
But I don't see this election being that close. I don't see it being down to 50 votes or something like that, where maybe that would matter.
Right.
Yeah, and I'm probably wrong, but if this is as elaborate a scheme as Giuliani is implying it is, then I don't think standing there at the polls while people vote is going to uncover that.
Right.
Like, I think you need to find, like, the smoking gun in a bunch of emails and sniff at them until you find the larger, vote disappearing apparatus.
Totally.
I just don't see any benefit of doing this because folks have been very vigilant at the polls and haven't been able to turn things up.
But, when they're losing in the courts on these voting rights issues and they think that blaming the rigged system is going to get people to doubt the veracity of this election and also at the same time keep some people from coming out because they'll feel intimidated, then it's a ploy that's working. And you see all his people believe it's a rigged election. He says it every 10 minutes or every 10 seconds.
I got vibrators older than that child. Nothing, Sister Holiday's quite like family.
Your room's upstairs.
But the liquor's in the dining room. Hey, Walter, is the family coming for Christmas?
Every single one of them.
What's with those pink pants, Malibu Barbie?
They gonna kill each other out there. Somebody got a boyfriend. I got vibrators older than that child.
This is our first Christmas without your mother. Just 5 days for y'all to act like a family.
You want me out?
Hey, neighbor, I'm trying to get you out of here.
It doesn't kind of work. Get it done. Ronnie? Oh my God.
Oh my God.
You two know each other? What the hell is going on? I'm his wife, you dumb bitch. Who you calling a dumb bitch? You dumb bitch, young bitch, silly bitch, dead bitch. She got the gun, bitch. Ronnie, if you're gonna bring bitches in here, bring a smart bitch.
I'm too old for this.
Fox's Shepard Smith has come out in an interview with the Huffington Post published on Monday, denying previous rumors that former Fox boss Roger Ailes made homophobic comments in front of him and prevented him from coming out. So this is very important that he wants to say that he is now out and he's proud, and the reason why he wasn't out before had nothing to do with Roger Ailes. He says, quote, I wasn't new in the business when I came here. I'd been doing reporting for 12 years, but I wasn't old in it either, and he gave me every opportunity in the world. He never asked anything of me, but that we get it right, try to get it right every day. It was a very warm and loving and comfortable place. So this has been speculated on for a while. As a member of the LGBT community, we've we've sort of thought he was family, Shepard Smith, for a while. He was featured in Out Magazine's Power 50 list, but he never confirmed it until now. And it's important to note in this article from the Huffington Post that he is apparently, quote, visibly shaken and emotional when speaking about Ailes, who resigned from the network after multiple current and former employees accused him of sexual harassment. Smith said that the revelations about Ailes have been hard to take in. He even describes him as a father figure. And it is sort of, I am not a big fan of Shepard Smith, but this made me feel very sort of empathetic towards him, because it is, I don't know, it's got to be sort of a tough situation to have someone that you look up to and then have all these allegations come out. That's very conflicting. And I wish that he'd spoken a little bit more about, sort of disavowing himself from Roger Ailes, but obviously he's still sort of in a reconciliation type of a place. What did you guys think about this come out?
I mean, the come out thing, I think, is always interesting. I think to do it under this shield is really fascinating. But I also think that, Shepard Smith is saying that he just wanted to get the story right. He treated me with respect all the time, which is great. And most presidents of news organizations would have done that and not sexually abused a lot of people in the office as well. So I think that defending Roger Ailes, his personal relationship with him is fine, but he has to also acknowledge the fact that this happened.
Yeah.
Right, not a homophobe, it seems. I'm getting choked up over this, too. Roger Ailes, apparently not a homophobe.
Right.
If I'm to take Shepard Smith's word, still a creeper.
Mm-hmm.
Still a total creepo. And I agree that I needed a little... I would have liked to have heard something more from Shepard Smith kind of getting in there, because the truth is, I've seen from Shepard Smith drawing the line on This Is Ridiculous on Fox News.
Right.
I've seen him say, "This is America, we don't effing torture."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But cussing on air. I've seen him get in there and say, now we're all being ridiculous here.
Right.
And I would like for him to say, it comes as no shock that he wasn't, sexually harassed by Roger Ailes, because that's not Roger Ailes' type.
Yeah.
I would like to have heard from Shep Smith, a little more. Because it is easy to say, he just wants to keep his job.
Yeah, well, I feel sort of conflicted about this story, because I think I celebrate him coming out. I think it's great on a conservative network like Fox News that they now have such a major figure on their network is a proud gay man. I think that's awesome. That can only do great things towards tolerance and acceptance in maybe the hearts of people who had never known a gay person before. But where I'm disappointed is that he didn't really seem to call out Roger Ailes' actions enough. But again, like I said in my introduction, he might still be coming to terms with exactly who this, father figure, this mentor in his life, what he did and who he really was behind the scenes. And I don't fault him for that now, but I look forward in the future to maybe him being a little bit more vocal about the mistreatment that Roger Ailes perpetuated.
Yeah, that makes sense. So, Shepard Smith, it's had to have been hard to be Shepard Smith at Fox for all the way.
Yes.
So, I mean, and not only that, he went to the University of Mississippi. So it's like he's had a tough road to hoe along for a while. But
yeah, but just an equal number of willing people at the University of Mississippi. They're just not very vocal about it.
They're not very vocal. That's true. But so, I mean, being stuck at Fox in that situation, and this has to, its own way, be quite, I would imagine, quite liberating. But it's been a real tough 12 years.
So, follow-up question: what do you think the reaction will be of Fox News viewers now that Shepard Smith is an openly gay man? Do you think that he'll be celebrated, or do you think they're going to be like, you can be gay but not that gay?
I just think whenever he says something they disagree with, he will be the gay guy who said it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they're going to just come out and start writing. Although maybe some will, but I think en masse, as soon as he takes a position that is anti-Fox, which of all the people there, he's the one most prone to do it. I think that he will then, endure the wrath of the Fox viewers.
Disagree.
You disagree?
Disagree is going to change everyone. Everyone's going to see, but Shep Smith, they're going to all have a touching moment where they say, Shep Smith is gay. Maybe I need to be more sensitive. And I'm changing my opinions about every gay person and every gay issue. So the end of time.
Probably that's going to happen.
I'm wrong. And as soon as they do that, a rainbow is going to shoot out of their front lawn. And there'll be a pot of gold. And everyone's going to have a nice party and just hug each other and understand.
Yeah.
No, I think the other end of it is, I wouldn't underestimate, there's people who are like, I'm not a homophobe, I like Shepard Smith.
Well,
I've been watching him for years. It's a great cover to use in situations where you need that person you know to be your cover. Oh, Paula D. That's my friend for years. We've known each other for a long time.
Well, you always get that. Donald Trump is the king of doing that. On the trail with his Muslim. I have a lot of Muslim friends. A lot of Muslim friends. Some of them disagree with me, but most of them agree with me on this Muslim thing. Who are they?
Yeah. And then when he says, Roger Ailes told him that we need to get it right. He's not talking about correct.
Right.
He's just like, you might be yelling at him, Shep, we need to get it right. So right now it's two down the middle. We need to get it right. So I would like Shepard Smith if he's going to come out and say other things like I disavow the behavior of Roger Ailes toward women. I would like him to also clarify the definition of right when he says that.
It'll be interesting to see how this dynamic plays out before us over the coming few weeks.
Can you listen to the same old corporate media?
Can't do it.
Hear you, brother. Become part of the independent media. Join us. TYTnetwork.com/join.
Police in North Carolina are investigating the firebombing and vandalism of a local Republican Party office in which the perpetrators threw flammable material through the window and spray painted a swastika on an adjacent building. So, according to a statement from police, the perpetrators likely threw a bottle containing a flammable substance through one of the office's front windows. The substance then ignited inside the building, burning some furniture and damaged the building's interior before going out. I believe we have a photo of what the building looked like after the fact. So Dallas Woodhouse, the executive director of the North Carolina GOP, told Fox News, quote, "The important thing is nobody was killed. People could have been killed," he said. "This is a horrifying situation when you think you have volunteers and offices all across the state in all kinds of places, and these kind of acts are intended to intimidate and they are intended to terrorize. Local officials and the Federal Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives are investigating who was responsible for the attack and the extent of the damages." Now, both parties' candidates for president have responded, Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton. Donald Trump tweeted out, "Animals representing Hillary Clinton and the Dems in North Carolina just firebombed our office in Orange County because we are winning at NCGOP." Hillary Clinton responded saying, "The attack on the Orange County HQ at NCGOP office is horrific and unacceptable. Very grateful that everyone is safe." And also a little bit of an update to the story. On Sunday night, a GoFundMe campaign urging Democrats to donate money to help reopen the GOP office exceeded its goal of $10,000 within 4 hours of the campaign launching. So in sort of an odd way, especially since no one was hurt, it makes me grateful that the Democrats and the Republicans are in a way coming together and speaking out that this sort of behavior doesn't help diffuse an already tense political election at all. I'm happy that the Democrats are doing the right thing here, and I hope that people know this doesn't help anyone. This doesn't help either side.
I agree. It's tough, like the other side of it. We did a report on the first hour where Donald Trump is saying only Second Amendment people can really bring Hillary to justice, essentially, and someone says, "I'm going to do what it takes if she's elected president to get her out of power," essentially implying that he would kill her. And there are people who aren't disavowing that kind of behavior or aren't getting rid of their endorsement of Donald Trump.
Right.
What we see on this side of it is how it should always look when something, God forbid, like this happens. Is everyone coming together and be like, "Oh, Jenny's not here, but the of course of it all. Like, of course, this is not a good thing to do. And we should all come together to make sure that it doesn't happen again and that we repair the damage that was done by these people who none of us agree with."
This isn't how, our democracy works. And before I get your response, Michael, we do have a photo of what happened. So let's throw up to that tweet. There you go. Spray paint on the side of the OCGOP when it was on fire. Bombed Nazi Republicans leave town or else. And I'm so grateful that no one was killed or harmed, because that is really kind of a scary and disturbing image to look at. Michael, what's your response?
My response is basically the same as Brett's. I mean, this is an anomalous thing that doesn't happen very much, but it happened in the South all the time during the 60s, constantly. Every little, whether it was political or mostly activists. They were firebombing the SNCC headquarters during the Civil Rights movement. They were doing it to Democratic headquarters in the South. So at different times, it happened. I think Donald Trump's rush to judgment is the most illustrative thing here. It's like, what does he do? He blames Hillary Clinton. He falls for the lowest denominator here. What did I think right away? I thought, when you see the swastika on the side of that building, that it was probably a Republican looking to make it seem as if Democrats bombed the Republican Party. That was my first instinct. But you don't say that. You say, Jesus, this is awful. And Hillary Clinton and her campaign, whoever it was, that put that tweet together, that's the right thing. This is an attack on everybody, and the less said about it, probably the better in terms of acknowledging that there's any purpose to it. So I totally agree with Brett. It's just anomalous then.
Yes, I got it right.
Do you think that Hillary Clinton did enough just by tweeting it out?
Well, regardless of what, yes, I do think that's what you're supposed to do. What else is she going to do? Maybe she goes to anything else. If you go swarm by the place where it happened, then you might be overreaching and thinking of it as a political football, when really what should be done is let's everyone band together and fix what happened, and disavow anything remotely affiliated with that kind of behavior.
These two tweets are just totally show us what these campaigns are about and how one is presidential and one is not. Even if it's just saying the right thing. Saying the right thing when you are going to be president is better than saying the wrong thing.
However, I will say that Donald Trump is right, because he had 42,000 hearts and Hillary only had 19,000 hearts, and that's internet scoreboard.
Well, then never mind.
All right, well, and just as a footnote to this whole story, the Orange County Republicans will be working out of a temporary mobile office moving forward, so it looks like they are getting back to operations as usual, so that's good news for the GOP in North Carolina.
The Young Turks isn't just us, it's also you guys. You make this show possible, and we want to thank you for it, and we want to grow together. We want to be too strong. TYTnetwork.com/join. Let's do it.
Taraji P. Henson made under 2% of Brad Pitt's in the Benjamin Button movie of her salary in that. So she's publicizing her new memoir called Around the Way Girl, and she talks about her film, The Curious Case of Benjamin Button, in which she was the third billed star alongside Brad Pitt and Cate Blanchett, each of whom received millions of dollars for their role in the movie, where she was promised somewhere in the mid-six figures for her role as Queenie, who is the adoptive mother of Benjamin Button. But indeed, the producers lowballed her and actually offered her something in the lowest of the six figures range. Of this, she says, quote, "There was one other thing. I'd have to agree to pay my own location fees while filming in New Orleans, meaning 3 months of hotel expenses would be coming directly out of my pocket. Insult meet injury." Now, she had been working in Hollywood for over a decade at this time, so this was really insult to injury. She says, quote, "There are way more talented black actresses than there are intelligent, meaningful roles for them, and we're consistently charged with diving for the crumbs of the scraps lest we starve." She goes on to say, and then we'll get into a little bit more of the discussion here, "This is exactly how a studio can get away with paying the person whose name is third on the call sheet of a big budget film less than 2% what it's paying the person whose name is listed first. I knew the stakes, no matter how talented, no matter how many accolades my prior work had received. If I pushed for more money, I'd be replaced, and no one would so much as blink." She now gets paid six figures per episode on the hit show Empire, and of this she credits Tyler Perry because he was the one that actually raised her quote in the movie I Can Do Bad All By Myself. And just so that everyone is aware, she was actually nominated for Best Supporting Actress for her role in Benjamin Button. So this is a really sort of convoluted story, a lot going on here. How did you react when you heard this, Brett?
What I can say is how I reacted. I Can Do Bad All By Myself is actually a pretty good movie. If you heard Tyler Perry and were like, "Oh, stupid Medea," whatever, it's actually, she was amazing, and she was really good in I Can Do Bad All By Myself, and she's a really good actress. But when I hear that, you made 2% of what Brad Pitt made, I go, yeah, of course you did. That's Brad Pitt. Cate Blanchett had been, Elizabeth. Yeah, I get it. the argument, the logic I have trouble with is I've been working in Hollywood for over a decade and I'm still not making a lot of money. Like, yeah, that's Hollywood. Like, I've been working in Hollywood for over a decade and I'm not making that kind of money.
Well, you're no Taraji P. Henson.
I mean, I agree. I absolutely agree. But saying that I've been working in Hollywood for 10 years is not a good argument.
What about you, Michael?
Even not knowing very much about her, the plight is real. So you know that there are fewer parts for black actresses. You know that she got lowballed. But the thing that I find most outrageous, honestly, is that they made her pay to stay where she was. They're shooting a movie in New Orleans and they hired her to be an actress. How did that happen? Right? I mean,
where's the union?
People are going to this movie, or not, but people are going to this movie to see Brad Pitt. He brings in the millions, and he gets paid more because of that. Taraji P. Henson is bringing in some people, and she's getting paid very well for it, but not as much.
So, in your opinion, you think this is a fair treatment?
I don't know. It's unfair for me to say it. What? I totally agree with Brad. I feel like I'm not. I don't find it appalling that she's getting 2% of what Brad Pitt is making. I think that should not be the headline of the story, though. The headline of the story is that it's really hard for black actresses, and it took someone like Tyler Perry, who's a black director and producer, to pay a black actress at what they should be making and create parts for black actresses that don't exist. So I think to that end, her story and her plight are very real. That she made a lot less than Brad Pitt. Of course she made a lot less than Brad Pitt. People went to that movie to see Brad Pitt, right? And it wasn't very good.
Yeah, no, I worked at a talent agency for 2 years, and the lowest of 6 figures in a movie at that kind of role, even if it's third billing, like, there are a lot of clients of all colors and genders who are at that weird level. They need something big to happen, and it's unfortunate that there's way more opportunities for like white actors and to get that role, like that Cookie role. Like, how would she ever imagine that the role of Cookie would ever come about? And ask anyone anything about Empire. It was like, this was the case of like us really believing in this project and everyone telling us we're crap. It had to go to Fox, which, it goes, Fox is the one that stops airing original programming at 10 p.m. as opposed to the other ones that go to 11. Fox is that next tier. I mean, my job at the agency was to call for the ratings, and Fox was always a step, for the most part, lower than the other networks until American Idol. Isn't that on Fox? Mm-hmm. But yeah, so it's tough.
Here, she made 6 figures, nothing to sneeze at. She got a nomination, which propelled her career, right? I'm sure there's more to her story that makes her right, but I'm not arguing with it. I'm just saying I'm not outraged 50%.
And also, there's so much. I guess where I'm coming from, and I hear myself saying this, and I sound so defeated by the industry, but like,
well, think about what it's like hearing you say it.
Yeah, it's terrible. But it's tough. It's very difficult. Like the contract you sign when you audition for a show like Empire is like a 5 to 10 year contract to be on the show before you audition for it. So there are people who, a lot of Hollywood screen actors, like movie actors, who are doubling back around to take even more roles away from you as someone who's auditioning, like Taraji P. Henson, who's been in some movies, but like big name actors, especially at the time Empire was coming out, who were coming back to be on television. And so those offer-only high-number roles just disappear. So that screws you, and it isn't until you have a hit on your hands, and then like 2 years later that you're able to renegotiate into that big money when they start approaching syndication, year 5.
Yeah, I think for me, what stuck out, and it sounds sort of similar to you, Michael, is the lack of opportunity for women of color in Hollywood or in television.
Or on this panel.
Or on this panel. And another thing that stuck out to me was the inequality of her treatment when she was on the movie. Because you know for a fact that Cate Blanchett's every need and desire was taken care of. And the fact that she is the third star in that movie, and she's a memorable character. Again, she was nominated for Best Supporting Actress, and that she had to figure out her own hotel expenses and everything. That is absolutely outrageous and inappropriate, and it just wouldn't have happened to Cate Blanchett or Brad Pitt. And that is unequal treatment is what really is bothering me and doesn't sit with me. And then again, back to the lack of opportunity, and it's been a chronic, almost sort of, I want to say sort of disease in Hollywood that women of color, people of color, are so underrepresented on television screens, and we're making strides. We absolutely are, and Empire is a great example for that. But just think, when did this movie come out? When did Benjamin Button come out? It wasn't that long ago. And
2008.
Yeah, there you go. Is that right?
Yes.
You're right? Okay. 2008, and it's still, even then, 2008 wasn't so long ago, and we're still, we still haven't come as far as I would like for us to.
Here's what it would be. They spent way more money on transforming Brad Pitt into a shriveled raisin baby than they did on Taraji P. Henson, a real person.
The whole 2-hour podcast of the Young Turks,
You're gonna get it
if you become a member. TYTnetwork.com/join.